Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and I was always told I had a voice for radio, so today I am showing you a new Zekrom card. Yesterday we took a look at Kyurem. It was a bit of an outrager, to be perfectly honest with you. And of course, we've already had an outraging Zekrom in Shining Legends. We don't need an outraging Zekrom, but we do have a new Dragon Zekrom, and I figured it would be kind of rude if we didn't sit here and have a quick chat about it. Although, as always, I should let you know that my translations do come, as they usually do nowadays, from LimitlessTCG.com, the lovely David Hochmann himself. So Zekrom is a dragon Pokemon. Being a dragon Pokemon is a weird thing at the moment, ladies and gentlemen. On the one hand, you're not hitting anything for weakness, and that sucks. On the other hand, you have Devoured Field, which allows you to do an extra 10 damage. And you have Altaria, which allows you to do an extra 20 damage. And you got Zinnia, that gives you some energy acceleration if you had a Pokemon KO'd the previous turn. And you've got Lance Prism Star, which allows you to just put any two dragon Pokemon onto your bench as long as you had a Pokemon KO'd the previous turn. And yes, that does mean you could search your deck for a Stage 2 dragon and put it straight on the bench. So good news, we got a whole bunch of tricks. Bad news, you're hitting literally nothing for weakness, and double dragon energy is gone, ladies and gentlemen. There is an outside chance that maybe we end up getting a reprint as a special secret rare Majoba over in Dragonstorm, but at that stage, it's looking kind of unlikely, to be perfectly honest. Sorry to break the bad news. Now, if you want some good news, it's got 130 HP, which, of course, as I always say, is much different to 120. Things like Silvally, things like Golisopod, things like Zoroark GX, the best Pokemon in the format at the moment, will not get a one-hit KO, because they're going to be hitting for 120. Weakness to Fairy is a little bit of an issue with Gardevoir running around, but to be honest, Gardevoir will probably get a one-hit KO anyway. And we're going to be taking it to take down Fairy Pokemon Dedenne, 60 if you've got a Lightning Pokemon on your bench. That will not get a one-hit KO on Zekrom. Again, it will do 120 and fall just a little bit short. Retreat cost of 3 is heavy, but you do get to use Heavy Ball, so at least it's not a retreat cost of 2. So, as with all these Pokemon, it's the attacks we're really interested in. Starting off, 1 Lightning, 2 Colorless Energy, Shred. 70 damage, not affected by any effects on your opponent's active Pokemon. We have seen Shred on Dragon Pokemon after Dragon Pokemon after Dragon Pokemon. Dialga GX from the recent Ultra Prism expansion, for argument's sake, was a Pokemon that had Shred, and we're going to keep seeing Pokemon with Shred over and over again. Interestingly enough, this is basically the exact same attack as Dialga had, except it does 10 less damage, but it's on a single price Pokemon, so that's absolutely fine by me. The fact you're hitting nothing for weakness sucks, but here you can hit Pokemon that you shouldn't necessarily be able to hit. So if you're against something like a Jolteon EX that uses Flash Ray, ordinarily it would be a bit of a pain, because your opponent would be going, ha 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 ha, you can't attack me with basic Pokemon the next turn, and you'd be going, ha 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 ha, I can because I'm using Zekrom with Shred. Or we do have a couple of Pokemon GXs that prevent all effects of attacks, including damage the following turn. Dawn Wings Necrozma has this, as does Toxapex GX. But the good news is that you would come along here with your Zekrom and you go, oh, prevent all effects of damage, eh? Well, in your stupid face, because I'm using Shred. Now, in terms of the damage here, you're not really doing a huge amount. The good news is 70 will KO unevolved Pokemon like Zorua, and if you use a Devoured Field, it can get your 80 HP Pokemon like Kirlia, but really, you're just not doing a huge amount here. Even if you went completely over the top and got 4 Altaria down, so that you would then be doing 150, you could then add Devoured Field to do 160, you could then add a Choice Band to do 190, and I suppose at that point, you would be getting stuff like Tapu Lele, and that would even be with 3 Altaria, and you'd be getting Buzzwole, but although I do sometimes talk about these niche and unusual plays, 4 Altaria, Devoured Field, Choice Band is a little bit over the top. And we also have to talk about the attack cost here as well, which is far from ideal. 1 lightning, 2 colourless energy. Now you can use double colourless energy, and that's quite nice. But you still need another energy as well. Now you can always use max elixir here. But having to hit a max elixir and a double colourless just to do 70 damage, I think is a little bit over the top. Again, we can use Zinnia, but using Zinnia and your regular attachment for the turn is again just a little bit over the top as far as I'm concerned. I don't think it's something which we need to be relying on here. It's good to attack something like a Dawnwings Necrozma or a Jolteon. Outside of that, it doesn't really do enough. But the good news is we've got an attack that does a lot more damage. 2 lightning, 2 colourless energy, 150 damage, flip a coin, if tails it does 52 itself. Although having said that, now it would actually be quite nice if it did have outrage, because then you'd have 50 damage on and you'd be able to hit for 70 damage, 100 with a choice band, and it would actually be quite nice. I would like this with outrage, but we don't have it, which is kind of annoying. Although, weirdly enough, we had a very similar attack on the black and white Zekrom that did have outrage. Although, to be fair, that wasn't on a coin flip, that was automatic self-damage. Now, anytime we got a coin flip, we need to mention Victini from Guardians Rising. So you're only actually, if you use Victini, you're only going to take the self-damage 1 in every 4 turns, which is almost, not quite, but almost rare enough that we can pretty much just ignore it. As for the damage you're doing here, it's great. 150 is good. You add a choice band on here, you're doing 180. There's stuff like Drampa and Tapu Lele going down. But Devoured Field is pretty much a given in Dragon decks, which means you put a Devoured Field down with a choice band, then you're hitting 190 and Buzzwole goes down. Then you go Professor Kukui or a single Altaria, and then you're doing 210 and Zoroark and Golisopod go down. It is a very, very good Pokemon. This is a good amount of damage to be doing. The problem is the attack cost. The attack cost is a pain. Now you can use double colourless energy in Zinnia, like we said before, and you can always use Electrode here. Now, Electrode's a weird one, because you have to give up a prize, which is a pain. But if you give up a prize to put Electrode as 2 energy onto a Zekrom, and then you attach a double colourless energy and take 2 prizes, then you're giving up a prize of Electrode so that you can then go and take 2 prizes with Zekrom, and maybe you get KO'd back, maybe you don't, but I do know that being able to hit for 130 is not something that every Pokemon can do, especially when they're not using a choice band against an EX or a GX. It's a very expensive attack, but I do kind of like it if you can get the energy on there. The other thing I think of here is Drampa. Drampa just allows you to attach a basic energy to one of your bench dragon Pokemon. It is basically the Eviltal, but for dragon Pokemon. And I am a fan of it, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the thing we do need to bear in mind here is that we've got plenty of decks like Dragonite that I do think are going to take just a couple of turns to get rolling with something like a Lance Prism Star. So what we need is something to do at the beginning of the game. And I said in a video yesterday that one thing you can do is use Drampa to accelerate energy over, which is nice. But accelerate energy onto what? Onto Zekrom. We're starting to build up this dragon deck here, and I think Zekrom does have a little bit of a niche to fill in this particular deck. Drampa's your starter Pokemon. You can't use Lance to get your Dragonite out until a Pokemon gets KO'd, so what you do is you use Drampa to accelerate onto Zekrom, and yeah, it's a little bit expensive, and yeah, it's not ideal, but you're going to be using double colourless energy for Dragonite anyway. So in the early game, you accelerate energy from Drampa onto Zekrom, and then as soon as your opponent takes a KO, you use Lance, get 2 Dragonite from your deck straight onto your bench, and then you're rolling with Dragonite, but maybe at some point during the game you get a big attack with Zekrom. In a vacuum, I think Zekrom is too expensive. But in a deck where you need to use Drampa as a starter, and you don't really want to be playing the pre-evolutions of Dragonite, and you need a Pokemon to accelerate energy onto, ladies and gentlemen, Zekrom fits quite nicely, and I'm giving Zekrom an ordinary, everyday, run-of-the-mill, garden variety, uninspiringly ordinary, free Wassies. It is not a Pokemon around which you're going to build a deck, and it is not the be-all and end-all of the Pokemon trading card game. But as a Pokemon to put energy on while you're attacking with Drampa, buying time for when you can use Lance Prism Star to get your Dragonite out, that works nicely. At least I think it does. But maybe you disagree, in which case, good news! Comment section, go nuts, but remember the rule. Be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and so on, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio where you can do that. And do check out my other channel, Wassy Plays, for some more Wassy action. But by far the most important thing as always is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.